Hello, I'm Paul Smith and I hope you are very well. A few days ago now, we released a short video on how you can benefit, if you're a landlord, from turning your buy-to-let into a serviced accommodation unit. And I specifically promised on this last video, and if you haven't watched it, by the way, please go back and watch it again. You'll see it just in the button. You can easily go back. So if you haven't watched video number one, please go and watch video number one, because it's going to show you how to completely legally avoid all of the anti-landlord taxes. But I promised at the end of that video that we would talk to people. This video is all about people that don't have any property. So many of our delegates, many of the people that come to us looking for training, education, solutions, wealth, many of those wonderful people come to us and they think this. They think, yes, I'd love to get into property. And they think, well, I can't get into property because I don't have any money. Okay, so to the nitty-gritty of this video. How can you use other landlords' properties to make a profit for yourself? Rule of thumb, from your turnover as a service department operator, around about 40% of that turnover is going to be profit, even after you've paid market rent to somebody else. So let's say you've got a service accommodation unit, and I'm going to give you a figure because you won't know this, that's turning over £4,000 a month. Your profit is going to be of the order of £1,600. And one of the costs that I've allowed for in that calculation is for you to pay the rent. And that rent could be 600, 700, 800, 1,000, could even be more. There was a student I was working with yesterday in this very room, and she's paying £3,000 a month for a property in London and still making way more than £2,000 a month profit. So I'm going to turn over to Lee now, and Lee is going to share with you how in a very short time space, he's grown his portfolio to 4 properties. And we call this rent to rent. So what does that mean? It means the service department operator rents a property off a landlord, and that gives them a load of benefits. That's for a different time and a different day. So I want to focus on you, the person that's doing the rent to rent, in this case, Lee. So Lee has very quickly gone to 4 properties, and we're going to show you a short film now of Lee in one of his new properties because he's just adding 2 more. So in a very short period of time, he's gone from none to 6. And none of these properties does he actually own. Perfectly legally, perfectly properly, perfectly compliantly, he's making really good money. So Lee, over to you.
The best month that I've had was November. I turned over in excess of 10 grand. The average rule of thumb is about 40% of that to 45% of that will be profit. So that equates to about 4.5 grand's worth of profit, which off 4 units that have been going for 3 or 4 months is not too bad at all. So I was quite pleased with that. December was a little bit quieter. But that's what I expected, and once I'd been around the whole sort of annual cycle once, then I'll be able to budget better for the quieter months. But I've already got quite a few bookings in for this year, later in the year, so things are looking good. And then obviously these 2 extra units that I'm down here to sort of mobilise and get up and running this week. I've stopped sort of exchanging my actual time for money, which was a big thing for me. All my time was spent basically travelling to and from work, going to meetings, working, you know, the old grind, the old sort of 9 to 5 for, you know, very little sort of benefit and very little, you know, power in terms of me being able to control that and shape that into a proper career, whereas this is more of a challenge that I was looking for, and the challenge is in building a big, strong and a sort of sustainable company that will be around for years. The biggest obstacle is always finding the right units. You can go direct to landlords, that works well. It'll probably work even better over the next, you know, 2 or 3 years as they start to feel the pinch of all the changes in terms of the tax laws. But I chose to go to a sourcing agent, and that took all the pain and time out of actually sourcing the unit. The capital allowance benefits doesn't apply to me currently with the actual units that I've got, because I'm doing a rent to rent, so I don't own them. However, What I could do is I could always go back to the actual landlords and I could have the conversation with them to see whether they've actually claimed, for their units. It will benefit me by, building trust, sort of deepening that sort of relationship with them. And if they've got any more units, then they might be more likely to offer them to, me to manage for them. Yep. I'm working with a virtual assistant. She's based in Birmingham and she's been contacting all the companies that are in the business parks in the area. They're the ones that we're sort of targeting for the corporates, and those are the bookings that you want, because they tend to stay longer. They tend to sort of look after the actual buildings better, and obviously, there's less changeover costs, and there's less cleaning costs as well. So they're the ones that you need to be trying to get and targeting. Network. You're already in the sort of Touchstone family, so that's a good start. If you're ever in the area, then you can jump on a course or you can sort of listen to a course. But it's about building up the networks, both on social media, but also when you're in person with the people and sort of finding out what their issues and challenges are, how they're overcoming it. Just being able to text somebody or just send them a quick email for a quick answer, or to help with any questions or issues that you've got. People like helping people, so that's what I found anyway. It's a great community, and I would say just do it. How much money to get your first unit? You could do it with no money. It all depends on your sort of time frame. So if you're not in a rush, if you've got a job that you enjoy and that's bringing the money in, then there's less of a rush. So you could probably then sort of embark on either working with a VA, or you could do direct to landlord campaigns, either via text or via letter, or you could go via agents to find actual landlords that might have properties that would suit this kind of business. Or if you're in more of a rush, then in order to get it done quicker, there's obviously a cost to that. You can pay anything between £2,000 and £3,500 reasonably to a sourcing company to source you a unit like this. But once you get to the actual sort of critical mass of 6 units, 7 units, possibly more, then you can easily make that back in 1 month, in one good month, with strong bookings. So it's a balancing act of how quickly you want it, and what you're prepared to do. A lot of people go direct to landlords. If a landlord has got 1 unit, then they've often got sort of 3 or 4 units as well. So that's a good way of growing, for example. And it's obviously cheaper, but it all depends on your objectives. I would tell you, as long as you do your figures correctly, and there's a real sort of robust and a real sort of good way of actually working out the figures that you need to at least cover your base cost, which is that you work out what all your actual costs are for that unit. So for example, you've got the guaranteed rent to the landlord, you've got the council tax, you've got the TV licence, you've got the cleaning fees. Actually the cleaning fees are extra, but all the fixed costs that you've got, for example, and then you would work on a 50% occupancy level for that month, which is reasonable. I don't think I've ever had 1 month that has been less than 50%. Mine have been on average between 75 and 85%. Some have been higher. So as long as you're covering all your costs on those 15 nights, then you can get a nightly rate by dividing the overall fixed costs by the 15 days, which then gives you the actual nightly rate that you've got to charge for the first 15 days of the month. Attending the course and mixing with people that have already got 3 or 4 units and are looking to grow grow their businesses just gave me that sort of push over the edge that I needed to actually take the sort of leap of faith and to start doing it for myself. And like I said, it's one of the best decisions that I've ever made. I'm a lot happier now than I was while I was exchanging my actual sort of time for money. I'm my own boss, and that comes with its challenges, but I was more than aware of those, and those are challenges that I'm well up for, and those are building a strong, stable and robust business.
So what do you think of that? Lee's given up his day job, he's claimed back his time. Did you notice he specifically talked about stopping trading his time for money? Now, many people, if I say to them, would you agree that time is your most valuable asset? They'd all say, yes. What are you giving it away for next to nothing? Be like Lee, reclaim control of your time and enjoy every minute. You want to spend time with the kids, you want to go to the gym, you want to do what you want to do, not what the boss wants you to do. That's not the same thing. Now, you'll have heard from the video that Lee wanted to fast track this, so he used sources. So he paid money. So I want to give you a useful tip here as to how you can get properties without paying big money. You've all heard of Gumtree, yes? I'm sure you have. Or if you haven't, welcome to the 21st century. Gumtree. Go and Google it. Get to the Gumtree homepage and look on properties for rent on Gumtree. Now put in your postcode where you want your service accommodation unit. And I'm going to say put a radius of maybe 5 miles and see how many properties come up. And what you're going to be doing now is you're direct to landlords. Now I want to give you another tip. You heard that Lee talked about using a virtual assistant. Virtual assistant probably cost you £1.50, £2 an hour. Now you could sit there and put in a spreadsheet all of the landlords' names and all their phone numbers. Don't do that. Get a virtual assistant to do it. And in a space of 2-3 hours, that virtual assistant can come up with maybe 100 names. One of my very good friends has done this regularly, Gordy. You might have heard of him. He's got a big rent-to-rent business. What he does is he gets his virtual assistant to put all the landlords' names and all their phone numbers. And then what does he do? He uploads that automatically to text marketing software. Now, if I was going to use a message, I'd use something like this. Tenant problems, ? Want guaranteed rent 3 to 5 years. Call Paul on whatever to see if you qualify. Now, from that 100 landlords that have been texted, 4, 5, 10 are going to ring me to say, will you please take my property? Do I qualify for guaranteed rent? So I'm not phoning 100 people, they're phoning me, asking me for a favour. It's a bit different, isn't it? So the last time Gordy did this, I asked him for the figures, he texted 120 people, and on average, for the properties he took on, his total costs were £4.18. So change out of a fiver for a property that's going to give you between £500 and £1,000 a month cash in your pocket every month. How does that sound? Pretty good bargain. Really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please literally like it and share it with a couple of your friends. I'm going to say 2 or 3 people, because I don't want you to blast the universe. I want you to think about who would benefit from this video. If you've enjoyed these first 2 videos in the series, look out for video number 3. What we're going to be doing in video number 3 is we're going to be sharing with you insider tips and sharing with you how our students are maximizing the occupancy to increase their profits. Because it's fantastic making £500 a month from a property that you either own or you don't, but why not make 1,000? Why not make 1,500? So we've talked in video 1 about how to turn a buy-to-let into service accommodation. We've talked in video 2 about how to have service accommodation units, even if you don't have any money to buy them with. In video number 3, we're going to be talking about increasing your profits by increasing your occupancy. You've been wonderful. I've been Paul. See you next time. Bye-bye.